up, the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Nzimande, will officially launch the 2025 National Science Week. This happens at the Tshwane University of Technology in Pretoria. This year's theme is Science, Technology and Innovation are for everyone. SABC News reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa is out at the launch of the National Science Week. Let's take you to her now. Mbalenhle, very good morning to you. So I can expect great conversations to come out of there, but to also find out how science shapes and shifts our lives on the day-to-day.
Yes, certainly. And it would seem as though science is already 5 steps ahead of us, and they are already looking at ways of mitigating what we have seen happening in shacks. And these are shack fires that have claimed many lives. Now, the structure behind me, I'm going to step out of the shot. The structure behind me is of is different, is a different structure. So it's a structure made out of plywood. However, the technology that is going to be insulating the plywood is going to prevent fires from escaping from the inside of the structure and going outside and then catching onto the neighboring structures and then creating what we know as a felt fire, which has very devastating results, as you would know, from the stories that we have covered previously. I'm joined by someone who is responsible for this technology to give us more information pertaining to what exactly they are doing in order to ensure that this structure is safe and is protected from fires. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Tell us more. How are you going to prevent this structure from getting burnt down? You did explain to us that plywood is generally flammable. However, you have a technology that can prevent fire from escaping or even entering the building.
Thank you for the opportunity. So the structure will have an internal cladding, wall cladding system, which will be fireproof. There's also going to be insulation in the walls that will be fireproof, and then an exterior cladding system that will be fireproof. So between all of these 3 systems, it also helps to prevent the spread of fire throughout the structure.
So what exactly did you use? I mean, the cladding, what sort of technology did you rely on in order to ensure that you're able to then come up with this technology that protects families, and not only just households, but families and communities in their entirety?
These technologies are actually quite widespread for cladding. So we're actually partnering with the industry standards and things that are already fire protected and fire regulated in the industry. So that is what we will put on the outside of the structure. So looking at typical cladding systems that have been tested. And then on the inside, exactly the same. So we have sponsors in the pipeline to do that, and definitely working close with them.
So for the benefit of our viewers, right, what is cladding? Is it a type of paint?
No. It's actually a structural element that you can put on. I think the most common one, it will be like a fiber cement type of cladding system, which is totally fire resistant as well, but have been tested and so forth. So, I mean, if you look at typical claddings on the outside of a big warehouse type of thing or structure, those are the cladding systems. It's quite a solid structural element that gets placed on the outside structure of the structure. So what we see here is just the inside meat of the structure.
So what I hear you saying is that you're bringing industrial technology to the ordinary man. And in terms of putting together this structure, right, who were you working with to put this technology together and to come up with the technology and to put the structure together?
This is part of our design studio, Department of Architecture and Industrial Design, and we are basically have a designed makerspace studio for each year, first year all the way up, and this is the 4th year students that as last year completed their structure, and they learned quite a lot about the 4th Industrial Revolution things, as well as CNC cutting and the new technology that's available out there to future tech them. So this is obviously all student built, and I'm so happy with working with them.
And I understand that cladding is not the only technology that you've actually relied on. And while we're having this conversation, I'm just going to ask my camera colleague to just zoom in into, to show us the little clips that actually hold this house together. And I understand that you had to use somewhat of a cutting device in order to cut out the pattern and put it together and come up with this highly flexible house. Just kindly take us through the details of that.
So firstly, the structure is an open source community worldwide. They call it the Wiki House. So just Googling that will also give you a lot of resources. In the Netherlands, they already have these structures coming up. And now in South Africa, we can test it in our local environment. And the particular points, those butterflies on the edges, connects the doors and wall panels together, so it's easily modifiable or changeable, where if you want to take out a window or make that a wall panel, you can do that. So it really makes it a flexible design that can be anything you would like, and also maybe creates an interesting scenario for the future where you can actually sell or have this sub-market of panels that you can actually market later.
Okay.
So.
And that sounds very interesting. Now, there is a technology that, South Africans are somewhat interested in, and that is the technology you might have used to cut the edges around. Give us more information on that, please.
Yes, the cutting part is what we call a CNC machine. We've got one in-house, and these cutting panels then gets designed and built with Fusion 360 with our students, and then they start cutting with these machines. It's a big machine that takes one plywood sheet and then cuts it up in little parts, and these parts get assembled into a block, and then that is what we see. Yeah.
So do you think that with this kind of innovation we could be revolutionizing the housing industry in the future?
Absolutely, I believe so.
Thank you so much. There you have it. That is one of the individuals here putting on a display at the exhibition here, and there are a number of things to see. However, this house stands out and stands tall among the other innovations that we see here. To see a house that could potentially protect families from devastating felt, or rather shack fires, is quite interesting, and obviously technology taking part and forming part of everyday lives. For now, it is back to you in studio.
Sure, let's touch base a bit later on in the program. Mbalenhle Mthethwa on that story.